Mummies. So they take all this time to make the mummies. So what are we going to do with them? We are going to go and bury them. Now, in the beginning, we don't have mummies in the very earliest times of Egyptian history. They just put the bodies in the sand in shallow pits. But that sand had natron in it, and it naturally mummified the bodies. So in the beginning, it did it all by itself. They didn't have to worry about this long process, but they realized they could improve it. And they'd put, about a pile of rocks over top of it, and that's just how they would do it. You're not going to need to know the specific exact details about the old ways of this, by the way. Now, but always, because like they said, Kirthana's Ka needs things in the afterlife. So they're going to give her her personal objects, like her favorite teddy bear. Yeah, they'll bury her with her favorite teddy bear. A couple of lollipops, because that was her favorite treat. They'll bury her with some lollipops. And she's thinking, how does Mr. Kenny know about this teddy bear and lollipops? I just know all of these things. But then during the Old Kingdom, they said, you know what? We should make something better. And they start building pyramids. Now, the pyramids are going to be really interesting to see the evolution of them, because it's not going to just start off with like the Great Pyramid of Giza being this humongous, amazing, perfect creation. They're going to have a lot of iterations, and we're going to look at some of those today. And what's cool is, like Pharaoh Evelyn, no problem, dude, said, I want a pyramid. But they had to figure out how to do that. So at first it's going to be step pyramids. Then we're going to be like, Shania's going to be like, Evie's step pyramid was cool, but I want a straight pyramid. And then but since they hadn't done it before, it winds up not having an angle, the bent pyramids. There's lots of cool stuff. And we're going to see how they're going to solve problems and learn about the world from those things. And here on the top, we see this would be what it would look like. You have a pile of rocks, and under that would be a body. Okay, so here's the step pyramid at Saqqara. This one was created, and I believe for the pharaoh Djoser. And the only thing they found there was his foot, because it had been raided. But the idea was like the pyramids we see in Mesoamerica. This idea where you have a wide base, and then more narrow, then another narrow, and then this is how we had it. Of course, it wasn't falling apart, but it's also, 5,000 years old. And this was pretty cool, I'm sure Djoser loved it. Then we have the bent pyramid of Sneferu, where they wanted to have a smooth pyramid. Because you have to remember, these are not at their former glory. They used to be, in really good shape. They'd be perfectly smooth with limestone caps on it, but over time, the sandstorms going, we have erosion turning them into this. And they were trying at one angle, and they realized the thing was not going to stand, so they had to change the angle. And that's why it's the bent pyramid. But then we get to the piece de resistance. Khufu says, I want something better than anyone. And Herodotus doesn't call him Khufu, called him Cheops. I've heard other names for him too. We typically say Khufu, but Cheops is probably an older name that people used for him as well. And he wants an amazing temple complex of pyramids. And so he goes and has hundreds of temples built, and statues and monuments, and these humongous 3 pyramids. And it took over 2 million blocks to go and do this. All right. So this was a huge thing. We see the funerary boat that I love how that song keeps on talking about that, how it takes you to the afterlife and all that. And so this would be what Khufu believed would take his Ka to the afterlife. And this whole thing took 20 years to build and thousands of workers. The Great Pyramid is going to be something pretty amazing. It's one of the, it's the only remaining ancient wonder of the world, I believe. It's just something that's incredible. It's lasted all this time. For a long time, it was one of the tallest buildings ever made by humans. Now, of course, there are buildings way taller, but for thousands of years, this was the biggest thing people had ever done. It's pretty cool. And we think this was Khufu right there. Now, Khufu as a ruler was said to be kind of cruel and harsh. I mean, you think about it, if he says, all right, minions, you're going to make me a pyramid over 2 million stones, and those stones are going to be like over 2 tons, some of them. It's pretty amazing. And here we see the Great Pyramid. I mean, just look at that security guard right there on the bottom in the dark. Then look how big that rock right behind him is. That just gives you a scale to like how massive and gigantic this thing is. Like, I really do hope to see it one day. You know, people compared to these stones, some of these stones, like I said, are over 2,000 pounds, and they were moved and stacked all the way up like this. And like I was saying with the other pyramids, this originally was completely smooth. There was a limestone cap and actually a golden topper put on it. Of course, that was stolen over time. Here we just see what the pyramid looks like. So why do you think the entrance is like up higher? Why do you think it wouldn't be down on the ground? What do you think, Evie?
So that people couldn't easily get in?
Yeah, and it would actually be hidden off too. Like, it wouldn't just be a big door, entrance in there. It would, be covered up with the stones. But yeah, the idea to keep it secret. And one of the things that they would do too is they, the king's chamber, it was like in the middle of the pyramid, hard to get to. And no problem. And there were, things like booby traps and like poison put and, all sorts of things to make it so people being in there would not be able to go in and steal all of the grave goods, because this was loaded with treasure. National Geographic had a video series, and it was so disappointing in the end because I was so excited about it. It was like, we are taking a robot into an unexplored part of the pyramid, and they're like, we have never opened this door before. We have no idea what's going to be behind it. And like, for some reason, they were worried about going behind it. And so they had this robot go in and like behind this door, and then it was an empty room with another door. And they're like, and next time, in a couple years, we'll go see what's behind that door. I'm like, no, I want to see what's inside of it. I was so bummed out because I was like so excited because I was like teaching it like right when it came on. I was like, all right, kids, we're going to watch this. And it was like, I was totally let down. But, so there's still secrets to be found. To me, it's very interesting how we haven't fully explored everything about it and why not, but I don't know. And as I said, the Great Pyramid is actually in a collection of pyramids. There are actually hundreds of little temples at this complex. It's pretty wild and cool what we have going on for it. What's also interesting is how it's perfectly lined up with true north and constellations in the sky. There was a lot of things going on with this pyramid. It's pretty incredible how the Egyptians were able to go and build this thing. It's it boggles the mind. So let's look at some Egyptian achievements that that the pyramids made possible, and through their embalming and mummification made possible. So because the Egyptians did the embalming, they learned a lot about the human body. Like, for example, if Kadir got a really bad cut, Egypt would have been a great place to go because they actually knew how to like do stitches and sew you up pretty well. If, Shania is going on her hover bike and winds up falling off and breaking her arm, they knew how to set bones in Egypt so that it would heal properly. They're the first people in the world that figured out bandages, compresses, splints. Splints are like if you like sprain your wrist and you need to have something to keep it straight. They figure out all of this stuff. And we have the world's first medical books. So because the Egyptians were busy, taking people apart to embalm them and preserve them, they learned how to keep you together when you're still alive. Isn't that cool? And because of the pyramid building, like I said, they're going to learn a lot with astronomy. They're going to learn, because they have to do this, they wind up creating a 12-month calendar. Now, they only had 3 seasons, And it kind of makes sense for the part of the world they're in. They had the flood season, they had the harvest season, and they had the planting season. They learned a lot about angles. They learned how to do a lot of math with fractions. My wife is a math teacher, and she's teaching adding and subtraction and division of multiplication of fractions. And I don't know if you guys have done that yet, but it can be fun. And we have a number system based on 10. So they wind up learning a lot because of these cool achievements that they wind up doing, which I always think is neat. Seeing how the Egyptians had a problem. They said, we want to build this amazing monument, and we want it to be perfect. And then they went and figured out how they can make it perfect. And we're going to have one more slide where we're going to look at the math just real fast. Just because I think it's so cool. I love Egyptian math. Wish I liked regular math better. So here we see how the Egyptian math or numbering system worked. Who could tell me what number do we see right here? Who could translate it? Yeah, you can, Jackie, no problem. Wow, Khan's really looking at the time. You can't wait to get out of history. Breaking my heart. Wow. Wow. So we've got two of these. So 2,000. So Cortez says 2,000. He's right there. Then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He said 500. Okay. Got this. 20. Cortez is right. Ding, 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 ding. Is that what you had, Evie? Wunderbar. All right, and that's our notes for the day.